to TOD and how we're trying to get people to live near the railroad station, get on bicycles more, walk, get on the street more, relieve some of the traffic congestion in the center of town, ideas on how to do that, best place to put a parking garage. There are some great places out there to put these things, but when developers come in here, they're not bringing those kind of solutions to the table. You know, we're hearing a lot of other things, apartments, 130 units, you know, and other things that go on, and it causes us to wrestle with some of the pros and cons of whatever those generic proposals are. So I guess it's another undertaking. I know if we try to close down down to a quarter mile, it's going to take another initiative that's going to put a lot more people to work again. So I just want to throw it out to start with that and hear your ideas on what it would take to close that overlay district to a quarter of a mile. And also, should we not be shooting to get some focused steering committee working on TOD as it's progressing? Otherwise, it's going to morph into something we don't want to see happen. With that, I'll open the floor.
Okay. I have the TOD map here. I'm sure you have a copy of it already as well. Do you have a drawing of what you had in mind for a quarter mile?
It's really another circle. I mean, it's closer. I mean, this is a map of a half a mile.
Yeah, but that's not the TOD map.
Right, it isn't, but it's a circumference of what was defined as the half a mile. I'm just proposing another circumference that closes it to a quarter of a mile,
Okay.
where everything is equal across the whole dimension of that circle.
And I believe Madam Chair is asking you to show on the map where that quarter mile is.
Yes.
Where that line would be.
Yes. In other words, this is the TOD map. So that's right off of our website, all right, and out of our regulations. What I'm asking is, have you drawn and can come back and tell us exactly what you would exclude or not include in the TOD map that is listed as properties? Because the map is lined out in such a way to exclude a number of areas already. And if you take it down to a quarter of a mile, in your estimation, I'd like to see what areas you would like to take a remove from that map. And if you have that, that would give us at least a starting point.
Let me get together with Jay. I don't have that tonight because my issue with the current maps I've been looking at online, I'm just having a hard time finding and recognizing the streets involved so I can get a fixation on exactly where I am with the neighborhood and what streets I'm on. If there's a larger scale map, maybe in your office, Jay, maybe I can spend some time in going through that and try to configure something there using a lot. I didn't want to do it on a smaller map because I think I would be missing something. It wouldn't be accurate. So my to-do is to take a look at providing a better map using something in Jay's office that can give me a better picture as to the streets that are involved.
Well, why don't you do that? And by the way, this is available. It's pretty readable and easy.
Is it?
It's very readable, and you can pull it right off of the town's website.
You've got the streets on there? You can read those streets on there?
Yeah, I know where they are. I see some of the streets. I can find my way around pretty easily. But you can also blow it up online as well. So, but Jay Mr. Bansky, I'm sure, would be happy to help you with that, something more readable.
I'll take that up before the next
Okay,
meeting.
so I know we got a couple of other questions, and I have a specific area as well. Was it I didn't see who went first, but Mr. Fuller, please.
You want to go first, Mark? Or
I know I saw two hands over here.
Yeah. Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm a little confused because in the public hearing for the storage site, Mr. Paul cited that that place was too far away from the current TOD, where it could not take advantage of TOD at about a half mile, approximately more than a half mile. And now he's talking about reducing it to a quarter mile. So I'm a little confused by well, how are we fixing TOD if it's a quarter mile now, but you were complaining about it being a half mile, not, I'm just a little bit, I'm confused.
Are you referring to tonight?
Yes.
Because I didn't want to get into mentioning any specific petitions.
Well, I'm talking specific, I'm talking generally about TOD. If there was a site, any site, it could be X, Y, and Z donut shop, it could be A, B, and C lawn care, it could be Dave Fuller's mega housing apartment Joy of Wonder. I'm just a little confused. Why the discrepancy in the distance?
The discrepancy in the distance is that I think when you draw a complete circumference, a circle, it doesn't give you a clearer path as to where TOD should be, because we all know that there's opportunity more so north of the metro than there is south, because we hit the historic district too soon. So it's not going to be the perfect circle. So one has to take some time now and maybe highlight where this district would be the most appropriate, rather than just doing a quick
But
circle.
That's not true, Mr. Paul. The map actually lays out exactly what properties are in TOD, and none of the historic district is included. I mean, you could see and follow the lines pretty eerily exactly what streets and what properties are included. So my question was simply, which ones are you referring to that you don't believe should be part of the TOD?
I'm referring to areas that go, because to me, half a mile to me is not conducive to anybody that's going to walk to the railroad station. I think that's not realistic, and I think from the standpoint of where we are in the Northeast here with our winters, I think when you say TOD and you want foot traffic, you're not going to get it by going out to a half a mile. Now, when I talked about earlier an area being more accommodating to TOD, I look at that as, well, you know what? It goes back to the conversation we had a few months ago with regard to where the best place would be, for example, like a parking garage. And if I had my truthers, I'd rather see a parking garage go in that area that I was talking about being more TOD oriented, because it satisfies the parking issues we have and it moves it away from the center of town. So that's the kind of thought I put into it when I said, hey, that would be a more compatible vision of where TOD should go in this town.
Okay.
It's not like we have people living there, but we've got, see, TOD covers a couple of things. It covers mixed use. It covers jobs that you can bring people on a train to Stratford. It covers apartments where people can live close to the train station and get to a job as far as New York City. And there's a lot of moving parts. And a task force is what's really needed to focus in on the magnitude and the complexities involved in doing TOD. I don't think these meetings do it enough justice. I don't think we spend enough time on it. And rightfully so. This is not the venue for that solution. But I don't think any one person on this commission, or two for that matter, can go out there and administer what needs to be done on an ongoing basis unless they had the right people around them from various walks of our government.
Okay. I think at this point, because I'm going to move on, Mr. Paul, if you could take the map and come back or work with Mr. Herbansky and map out just what you are trying to describe to us generally, it would give us more specifics, because I think we're at that point of specifics.
Let me intervene here, Madam Chair, real quick. Jay could probably back this up or whatever, because I downloaded the PDF for the 2015 TOD off our Stratford website. In there is the map with the quarter mile, and half mile circle in that, the two circles in that PDF, and that's
the pilot study.
It's in the pilot study, but I mean, it's the same map, and it's a quarter mile is a quarter mile, a half a mile is a half a mile. I'm just saying that the map is the same, so I don't know if that would help Commissioner
Yes,
Paul.
I'll take a look at it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we're saying the same thing. Is to take a look at the actual, not the pilot study, but the actual outline of, per the zoning, of what specific properties and streets are included, and then you can recommend to us what your thoughts are as to what streets should not be part of it,
Right.
and then we can talk with that more specifically.
Yeah, that's my duty. I'll get together with Mr. Hibansky, and we'll get that
Yeah,
done this week.
that's what, I want to,
Do you think the half mile is just unrealistic? Is that what you're saying, or what?
I think
Missing the
it's
point.
unrealistic as it relates to expecting people to walk from an apartment or home to the railroad station, because if that was realistic, it would be happening now.
But first of all, people spend their money differently, and everybody's gonna, spend it to the like the most extreme that they could. And I think that's the point here, as everybody's saying, well, why are they, building, 50 units instead of 25? Well, that's because that's what they can do, and that's what, everybody wants to spend their money, and nobody's thinking, you can't expect all of those projects to think, oh, well, this is the good of the town, so, okay, in case I won't do 50, I'll do 25. They're not going to do that,
I understand.
And
I mean-
don't forget the TOD still in infancy stage.
Yeah, I mean,
Got
people
done
do,
with the study I keep talking about with the circles, 2015 PDF was the last. But it's in the zoning reg book I just put away, I use that TOD now, you know what I mean?
yeah. I know, Mr. Fuller, your hands are up, but I just want to be able to make a statement. I want to move this because we don't have enough time. There's another area I also would like to bring our attention to discuss.
I would really like to, because it's related to the most recent point.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks.
Okay.
Developers have decided not to go the full max build-out and have looked at the neighborhoods, have looked at the
they have to
benefit.
some degree, but
Yeah.
they don't start out that way.
Christ Episcopal Church's parking lot is a perfect example. They could have gone with like,
How many that we've,
we've looked at 3.
But
TOD
let's try not-
applications.
Let's try not to
Yeah.
get into the specifics
Yeah.
past or present, because we'll
Yeah.
run into problems with that.
But, no,
point-
I mean, there have
we
been
understood what
historical
you're saying.
cases of not max build-outs.
There you go. That's a good statement. We have had that. In fact, none of our applications to date have been max build-outs per the availability of TOD, which brings us very nicely into the point that I wanted to bring your attention to, and you can make note of it. It's page 97 of the regulations, and it is number D, called density. And it says, for developments containing residential uses, the maximum residential density shall be 50 bedrooms per 40,000 square feet of lot area as defined in section 1.24. Now, this is an area that I think we could adjust, and it speaks to the density. Now, 40,000 square feet I'm not saying my math is all that great. Is that an acre?
An acre is 43,560.
So it's 50 bedrooms per acre, essentially. So if you have 2 acres, you're now over 100, maybe 112. I'd like to recommend that we consider reducing that and maybe look at something that's closer to 30 or 35 bedrooms per acre, if you want to call it.
Actually, there's an interesting way to think about this. What is the ultimate goal of TOD? It's really to promote mixed use. It's not just housing, it's not just retail, it's not just one thing.
It's mixed use.
So there's also ways you could incentivize density, where you have a higher density consideration for those that do consider mixed use versus those that are strictly fully residential.
That's true. We could certainly look at that. And I think that's a very good way, because one of my comments has been there's no one size fits all. Our experience has shown that in some locations, mixed use is very appropriate and desired. In other locations, maybe not as desired. And in some locations, higher density is acceptable. but in some areas, not as acceptable. So right now, we have sort of a one-size-fits-all. I think we could tailor it a little bit better.
Because that's the one thing we haven't seen in TOD yet. We haven't seen the real mixed-use side of it yet.
No.
And that's what's been alarming to me, even though it's so early in the whole TOD life. So I'm okay with like keeping the 50 if there's a mixed-use component, a real mixed-use component, but then maybe taking like a 35 or a 40 to full residential.
Okay, Mr. Hibansky's trying to jump in here.
I just wanted to clarify the misconception as to the reasoning for TOD. It's not mixed use, it's not economic development, it's to increase transit ridership. That's it. All the other stuff are spin-off benefits that a community can get by increasing the density around mass transit. So the number one goal of TOD is encouraging ridership.
That was not what was sold to us on the zoning commission when this was approved. It was something in conjunction with the other stuff, but it wasn't the main reason. And if I knew that, I would not have supported it.
That's right. That was not the only reason
And
given to us.
I'll explain why. I work in Stratford. My office is 2 blocks from the train station. I drive. Why?
Train's tough.
I'm at the mercy of Metro North. It's cheaper to drive, and it's still quicker to drive, despite the traffic. And either I could leave at 7 in the morning, or I have to leave my house at 6 in the morning to find parking. I mean, I would have to pay for it legally.
I have one more comment, too. It's, we're finding that there's a concern and feeling out there that retail is not working and that people won't come and shop and buy things and things like that. And so we're not hearing anybody getting excited about the retail piece of TOD, solely about the apartment piece. So is there any study we can generate that can show that there is a need and a void in the retail market here in the town of Stratford?
There was just a article yesterday or today that we're getting away from being a society going shopping, and we're turning into a restaurant bunch of people because everybody's interneting it and Amazoning it or whatever. I don't even do any of that. I guess I'm going to be the stick in the mud, but that's what everybody's. That's what they were just coming out saying. That's what, and the other thing is that we always ask about mixed use. I know every time I'm on, an applicant comes up, I ask them what they're going to do, and they just.
That's what I was going to say.
So maybe things are changing.
The folks, and I'm going to come back to this. One, Mr. Paul, we haven't commissioned our own commercial study. We've had the opinion of actually 1, maybe 2 developers, and that's it. All right, so I wouldn't say that qualifies for an overall generality of what our environment is. The second thing is that I'm looking at page 94, and where it talks about TOD. I'm reading this from the regulations, and it says is to preserve the historic character, to revitalize Stratford's town center, commercial areas, and to promote mixed-use development that increases employment and the tax base. And the number one thing it says, provide an alternative to traditional built environments by emphasizing mixed-use, pedestrian-orientated development. And it goes on to about 9 other things. So I think Mr. Hibansky's right. We were looking to increase ridership, but not in the words of people taking the train, but more pedestrian traffic is, I think, a better way of saying that.
And I'm not my statement was not, as you can see, this is what Stratford prioritized. I spent 3 years of my life studying TOD specifically only. That's what my specialization was in my master's. As a whole, it's ridership. I mean, any town can prioritize whatever they would like, but that's the generally that's that's the motivation for TODs to increase ridership. But any town can prioritize it however they'd like, as which we see here.
Isn't there a town already that's been doing the TOD that's
Most of the towns have been,
more advanced
Milford,
than us?
so many of them have been, and that's what Mr. Urbanski's experience is wonderful for us to have. I would like for us to look at density. Of all the issues that I've heard time and time again, is we're not against economic development, everybody wants it, but we don't want to lose the character of our neighborhoods. And the density, which then leads to parking issues, are all related. And I think one of the ways we can address this is looking at how do we want to adjust our density, and maybe, as Mr. Fuller had started to lay out, look at different scenarios of how we want to allow that. One where there's residential only, one there's a mixed use, and maybe carving it out for certain areas of the town where we think, which they have done, this has to be mixed use, this doesn't have to be mixed use, but maybe the density is a little bit less. These are options we have.
Didn't we bring down our parking because of TOD? We did that.
What do you mean, bring it down?
Well, we
Reduce the
Liberalize.
calculation.
to have people not have cars, and that isn't gonna happen. You know, everybody that comes to us says, or, you know, we say, everybody that comes to us gives us a parking, and we're all like, well, there's 2 cars to each house, but we brought that down. We brought that down, we made that, to help with TOD, am I right, Dave?
That is correct,
Yeah.
yes.
Well, did we do that in the right
Well, here's,
time? I don't know.
here's what was before TOD was 1.3, if I'm not mistaken, spaces in that area.
Don't know.
And then I think we brought it down to 1.1, if I'm not mistaken. That's what's now on the books is 1.1. So maybe there's something compromised. Maybe it's a 1.2 or a 1.25, some sort of.
We did that to
Well,
TOD.
You know,
here's what I'm asking this board to accept or allow us to go forward. And I'm being very specific for a reason, because it is a big subject. I'm asking this commission to authorize Mr. Urbanski to look at language and opportunities to change a particular section, which is page 97, number D, for density. All right? And take it to planning so that we could look at some different density opportunities, so that when applications do come before us, we have more opportunities that we can take advantage of as we guide our developers in what we want for various locations. That is what I'm asking this board for.
And as we try that, I guess I'm thinking, the more we try to increase Metro North's ridership, the more we start to bring in density, then we've got to do it in a way that doesn't invite motor vehicle ridership, because the motor vehicle ridership in this town is totally counter what we want to see. We've already got congestion in our town center. We overflow parking at our railroad stations. And I don't care if you build 2 parking garages. You're only going to attract more out-of-towners to come into Stratford to take the train. So we got to figure this out and make it so that the train and the ridership are people that live in this town and are willing to walk to that station, because there's not enough parking garages to go around that's going to satisfy all these communities that are going to land in Stratford to take the train.
So, Mr. Paul, are you agreeing to move forward on my suggestion to look at that section?
Yes, but with the caveat that we have to be cognizant of the fact that we can't increase density and also increase automobile traffic in the town.
I think you have it backwards. I'm asking you to look at that section to reduce density. That's what my request is, to look at that section that now calls for 50 bedrooms per 40,000 square feet and reduce the number of bedroom allowed for 40,000 square feet, which is approximately an acre. Would you agree to looking at
I
that?
would agree to look into that, that well, and I also, well, I won't even add, I think, let's just do that alone and let's see what we come up with.
Mr. Fuller?
Yeah, in following up with that specific lens, I'd like to see that kind of like the staggered out, incentivize density with the mixed-use component, and then bring it down, stage it down for full residential. This way we have different sorts of developments encouraged for different ways. If someone needs full residential,
I
they
like
have one
that.
option. They want mixed use, they have another.
If someone does what you want, they get rewarded.
I totally agree with that. Mr. Giuliano, do you have an opinion? Do you agree with looking at this section?
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly with that, but I just, funny that you mentioned me, because I was just going off on another tangent in my mind about one of the towns you were talking about, and I realized, oh yeah, I can remember going there. And oh yeah, the train station is there, and oh yeah, there's tons of parking behind that train station, and oh yeah, I could walk that street and walk for miles and hit every type of shop you can see. We are not set up that way. Start from the train station here, look out that window. What are you going to do there? That's all mute. You're not going to move the fire department. You're not going to move those apartments. There's a place across the street, and this wasn't my idea, this was somebody else's idea, that there's a second floor with all offices up there. That should be all millennial apartments because it's right across the street. So what do we do with them? Well, I don't know. If you get rid of center school, put them over there. I mean, our layout needs to be laid out, and it's not laid out. You got a TOD, but you got 1800 train station. You got 1956 I-95 going by. It's like Petticoat Junction down there.
Okay,
Okay?
that sounds good. Ms. Peppin,
I said everything I needed.
Let me
would
just-
you agree to move forward on looking at that area?
Yeah, and I like the part about incenting, and I'm talking about when you allow more density, and if it's far away from Metro North, maybe the incentive should be, somebody's got to kick in for shuttle services, so maybe we can eliminate some of that traffic flow into town with that kind of
Or
incentive.
put in sidewalks that don't
Yeah.
exist right now?
Yeah.
Mr. Rogaskis?
I think that, yeah, we definitely should move ahead with looking at that, and I love the idea of the incentives for, like Jay said, if you do what we want to do, you can do more. You get rewarded. So I agree.
And the good news is that I saw you all recommending this stuff in my head, and we're already working on it.
That's good.
We're working on the density, some new stuff, tapering down the reward based on what they're providing in their application. So that's something we can.
Just one more question I have. The parking lot that we have for the train station, is the Department of Transportation, the state own that? So we don't have ownership on some of this property that's involved with the Metro North as it is.
That's theirs.
So there's some issues with, trying to coordinate some interest with what we may want to do, but the property now belongs to the state of Connecticut, so we have to work with them as a partner to talk about some changes. So,
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Folks, it's 11:30.
Motion to adjourn.
I second that.
yeah, it's the second,
All in
third.
favor?
Aye.
Thank you
Aye.
very much. We got a lot of work done tonight. Thank you very much.
These chairs are terrible. We gotta get more chairs. We're gonna stay here this long.
I'm just trying to get a sound system that works. At least it was a little
At
bit
10
better.
o'clock, we should all just